Now, my friends, I want to go ahead and get to the main portion of today's show. As you know, for this week chat, I've been talking about my favorite, the best of the year so far in terms of movies, in terms of TV shows. Well, now I want to talk about the video games. Obviously, I've not played as many games as some other people out there. Yes, I am a professional quote-unquote streamer, chat, and I play a lot of video games, but I realized, wow, I haven't really played a lot of new releases so far in 2022. Not that there hasn't been some great releases already. You know, if anything, is that we've had some great releases. Just many of these games are just so big. Dozens and dozens of hours, if not hundreds of hours, chat. You know, a lot of variety, a lot of ways to play them, a lot of replayability. And so, you know, it's taken me time to beat some of these. You know, I'm not playing usually these games for 6 straight hours or something on stream. Usually it's about 2.5 or maybe 3. So it takes some time, of course. However, I did want to highlight some of the ones that I've come to really enjoy this year, and one that I've actually recently just completed on my own channel, chat. One that I'm playing now on Double Toasted, but that is Supermassive's The Quarry, chat. You know, if you're a fan of Until Dawn or the Dark Picture Anthology, you've probably heard of The Quarry, chat. This is very much the spiritual successor to Until Dawn. Well, the setting is, it's modern day, takes place in upstate New York. You have these camp counselors that have just finished their jobs during the summer, sent those little shits back home, chat. But hey, they end up getting stuck for one last night, and they just want to enjoy themselves, chat. You know, they're doing the typical teenage stuff, listening to music, getting high, eating peanut butter pops, pop them in your mouth, eating the peanut butter pops, as we all know, chat. But then, oh God, they are attacked by weird creatures that are they're living in the woods. I want to say what they are, but it's like, what are these things, right? They're attacking you, of course, and then you got to deal with a seemingly redneck cannibal fuck family that want to most likely eat you, kill you, and fuck you. Hopefully in that order, chat. Hopefully it's they want to kill you, then eat you, then fuck you. Do you want it in that order, chat? You don't want them to start eating you, and then you don't want to be like eating you alive. No, fuck that. I got to reverse that. So definitely the preferred order in my case, chat, is kill, eat, fuck. Thank you very much. Human the Black Human, thank you so much for the 500 biddies. That's such a generous donation. Pleasure to have you here. Talking about one of my favorite games so far in 2022, The Quarry. But you know, it's very similar to a lot of Supermassive games, of course. It's a choose-your-own-adventure, chat, where you're presented with all these multiple characters, and they all have different relationships with each other, and you can modify those relationships. You can choose, you can make different decisions, chat. You can approach scenarios and situations in all sorts of various ways. Sometimes the best thing to do is to do absolutely nothing, chat, and sometimes you gotta be proactive. Sometimes you gotta fight the redneck, fuck, family. Or sometimes you gotta fight the monster. I love that shit. These types of games are so fun to play on stream. They're an absolute blast, because they can be one, really well acted, well written. They can be super goofy and dumb. It's all across the board. It's a really fun experience. I've loved replaying it, chat. And I will say, I feel like Supermassive has listened to feedback from their previous games, and they've given just a lot of new just abilities and settings for players, chat, where if you just kind of want to sit back and just kind of watch it all play out, you have cinematic mode, where you can kind of program all the characters' personalities, and you can kind of think of decisions that they make, and you just let it play out like a nice 6-hour movie or a 4-hour movie or something like that, which I think is fun. Or, once you beat the game, a little bit of replayability, you get like this rewind mode. And so if characters might have died, which can, change the events of the story, you can go back to certain chapters and try to save them and see how the story plays out. Yeah, I've really liked this. I think it's been super fun. Apparently it has like 100+ different endings, chat, very, very small little changes, of course, but it's really good. I'm glad Supermassive has been having so much success. I'm glad that they found their niche. Obviously, they have another game coming out this year, which is the 4th chapter in the Dark Pictures Anthology. I think it's going to be kind of like a possession story, exorcism story, I'm not sure. But I'm going to play all those games this October, chat, because I just had such a great time with the Quarry. It's such a fun title. I highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of choose your own adventure games. Like if your only exposure was maybe something like the Telltale games, which are great. There's some great ones like Walking Dead, of course, and Wolf Among Us and Batman. All those Tales from the Borderlands. Then give this a try. This is kind of even a more cinematic. It's a very, very beautiful game, but also some of the faces, some of the faces of the characters are creepy. The mouths, they haven't mastered the mouths yet, chat. They're very weird, little uncanny valley, I must say, like that. But along with the Quarry, chat, another game I like, kind of like the complete opposite, if you will, but one that, I've come to really appreciate. That was a nice palate cleanser after a lot of these big games that I played, especially these big open world games, and it's Trek to Yomi. This is made by, I think, a Polish studio, funny enough. You wouldn't guess that this was made by a Polish studio, chat, but Flying Wild Hog. And this is also published by Devolver Digital, one of the most, just original and fun publishers out there, Chad. They're just very experimental, always putting out new types of things that you just wouldn't expect, that most publishers wouldn't take a chance on. But that's what Devolver Digital does. And it's set in Japan. It's a 2D side-scroller set in like the Edo period in Japan, and kind of has the aesthetic of an Akira Kurosawa movie, chat. Something like Seven Samurai, when you play this warrior named Hiroki, who grows up from a young boy whose master is murdered, and you become the protector of your town or your village or city. Things obviously go awry, and you have to go through this trek, if you will, to Yomi, which is kind of like, as far as I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, if we have any experts here on Japanese mythology and history, is almost like the Japanese version of the afterlife, chap. So it has like a supernatural element to it. Really fun game. Definitely has a few technical issues. There's no doubt about that. Definitely some texture popping. But I love the liberal use of checkpoints in this game because it is challenging. It's definitely a challenging game, but thankfully they sprinkle so many checkpoints and you're able to heal yourself so quickly that I was like, okay, cool. So you're never going to get too frustrated. There were a couple of parts where I got stuck for maybe 15 or so minutes, but overall, a really fun game. If this is available on Game Pass, I would encourage you to check it out if you do have Game Pass. So play it either on Xbox or PC. Really, really cool, and just something that we often in terms of an aesthetic, the black and white aesthetic was just kind of nice to see, and just kind of having all the artifacts in the image. I mean, it felt like a 1940s samurai epic, chat. I thought that was really, really cool. I love the aesthetic. Absolutely adore this deck. And you can even, if you want to make it even more immersive, they have both an English language version and they also have a Japanese version where I just had English subtitles and I just had all the characters speak Japanese. Really liked that. Really immersed me even more. So highly recommend Trek to Yomi, especially if you have this on Game Pass. The next game, chat, this is one I've enjoyed my time with it, but I will say this is the one that I was not even sure I would put on best of, but for now I will. And that is Horizon Forbidden West. Now, I was a huge fan of Horizon Zero Dawn. It was one of my favorite games of the last decade, Chad. I think it was like, if I had like a top 10, I think it was like number 8 or number 7. Just really good. I thought it kind of reignited interest in Guerrilla, Sony's developer, who previously done the Killzone series, which I was never really a big fan of, just kind of straight sci-fi military shooter, whatever. I mean, there's good ones, obviously, but they're not incompetently made or anything like that. Just, I don't know, I didn't really care about the lore or the characters of the world all that much. But with Horizon, I did. I just love this. It's a dystopian future mixed with Neolithic aesthetics, which I think is so cool. And it's a world filled with robot dinosaurs and robot creatures and monsters and animals. Very cool. You have this character named Aloy, who I think is definitely one of the best protagonists, certainly of the previous decade. Just, this passionate warrior who's trying to figure out what's happening in her world. You have a nice supporting cast of characters, of course. And then that brings us to the Forbidden West, which we're kind of exploring more of the Western United States, the dystopian United States, stuff like California and Colorado and Nevada. And I like it for that. Like, the thing is, I think the moment-to-moment gameplay is really good. It's gorgeous. I love the Aloy character. I just like all the different types of new creatures and dinosaurs and things. I like the upgrade systems. But if I have a criticism so far of the game, it's just the story. I'm just not. It's not hitting with me. I feel like it has so much exposition. It's just such a glut, and they just go blah. It just vomit at you. It's a lot of word. It's a lot of word salad, yeah, a lot of word vomit, and that's the frustrating thing because I like all these other things about the game, but anytime like we slow down and we start talking about the goddamn plot, about I don't want to spoil for anyone who has been playing it, but certain things are not as they appear to be, and it involves this and that and boppity boop and mumbo jumbo, and I'm like, all right, it's a little too much. I wish they would focus more on Ailey's relationships with the character. They would lean into that more because that's the thing I like. That's one of my favorite things about this game. Because everyone in this game wants to fuck Aloy. Male or female, they want her. I have like 16 girlfriends in this game and 17 boyfriends. And it's like, I get it, Chad. She's a hell of a goddamn woman. She's a badass. She's intelligent. She's sassy. She's funny. And, she's beautiful. I mean, how can you not? I get it. But my Lord, everyone I come across wants to fuck her. She's constantly putting people in the friend zone. She's like, I got too much on my mind. I don't have time to fuck. That's funny. I like that. That's pretty good. But yeah, it's just the main storyline. That's the thing. It's funny. They fixed the thing that I thought was one of the weaker elements of the previous Horizon. But, the side quests weren't all that. I like these side quests a lot more in this game. But it's the main story that I think that is suffering overall. But still fun. It's still a great game. A lot of people have it on their best of list as their favorite game, and I totally understand. It does a lot of things right. It's a lot of things right, and I love the way the game looks and plays. It's just that something about that story I'm not clicking with it right now. I'm not clicking with it. But moving on from Horizon to what I can easily say at this point, chat, right now. This is the game to beat for me as best game of 2022, one of the best games of the 2020 so far, chat, and that is Elden Ring. I am not a king, I am not a god, I am the Elden Lord, chat. Of course, this is from Software, chat, who have made a name for themselves for, I don't know whether they created the Souls genre, the Soulsborne genre, but they certainly popularized it, chat, with stuff like Demon Souls and Dark Souls and Bloodborne, chat, and other things like Sekiro. But this is their latest game, and it looks like it's going to be their most commercially successful, if not most critically successful. Certainly commercially successful. This is done so well, chat. It's been so fascinating to see the birth of a new genre of video games. Some, we see and they fall by the wayside and they die, like rhythm gaming, during the height of Guitar Hero and Rock Band. Not that rhythm gaming, hasn't gone away. It hasn't, but, it's not nearly as popular as it once was. But Soulsborne games continue to exist in the mainstream, chat, and the pop culture zeitgeist, and they continue to be so incredibly popular and beloved. Now we're seeing gameplay elements incorporated into like really mainstream games. Stuff like a Star Wars game is a Soulsborne light. Like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, chat, is a Soulsborne light game. It just really shows you the impact the genre has, and that's fun. That's really good to see. I love that, but Elden Ring in particular, it does what I think so few open world games struggle to do, is that it creates a really interesting open world. You have all these different regions and you can approach them to however degree you want to approach them, but like around every corner and every forest and every cave on every coastline, in every swamp and bog and marsh, there's just a little surprise. There's just something that's going to take you off guard and go like, whoa, it'll scare you or entice you. It's just the moment-to-moment gameplay in this is excellent. The way in which you explore that world is really cool. The variety that you can approach situations is amazing. Like, this game has infinite replayability, where you can be like a typical warrior, you can be, a mage, rogue, of course, of that, but then there's all these other varieties of subclasses that you can create to your own play style. Like, I create for myself, I create a spell blade and where I leaned heavily on dexterity and intelligence, and so I was casting spells, and I was using a katana all the time, Chad, with magic attacks, and I mean, I really loved that. Fluber Schmeckeldorf was powerful, Chad. You know, I had an easier time than most probably playing the game because of the character class that I built. Like, straight melee would be a goddamn nightmare in some cases, but you can create archer. I mean, all sorts of faith-based characters. You can summon things. It's wonderful. Like, if I have a criticism against the game, it's just that, yeah, it's central narrative. It doesn't have a strong central narrative. You know, when it comes to like a lot of the Soulsborne games, it relies on its aesthetics and its gameplay. Now, there is a rich, deep, fascinating lore. There's no doubt about that, but that's not what's at the forefront. It's there. It's there in the background. You can read into it, and those wikis are really fun. The YouTube videos people made fucking careers of making those. Like, they're really cool. But yeah, if you just want a challenge and you want to be surprised, you know, every time you play a game, Elden Ring's the one to play this year. It's challenging. It's difficult. It's very difficult, you know. But at the same time, I do think it is kind of all the From Software games, because there are gateway Soulsborne games, you know, or Soulsborne light games, like a Jedi Fallen Order, if you will. But I feel like Elden Ring is the easiest to get into from Software games, you know, because the way in which you can really customize your character, and magic makes it a lot easier for you know, various bosses and scenarios and sequences, and so you can approach it that way. So I really like that. I like that. I'm glad that they made a challenging, a very challenging, but a little bit of an easier game to get into for new people that are not accustomed to Soulsborne games. But yeah, I mean, so many great moments, and the boss battles are so cool, Chad. I mean, from Radon, of course, to Melania, to Brachiosaurus Jesus. I mean, it's great. It's really great. It's one of those games I'm definitely gonna play again on stream one day. Probably not this year, but who knows, Chad? You know, I mean, eventually I will get back into it. I'm double toasted for Fluber Schmeckeldorf III, my strength faith build. But yeah. No, Elden Ring for me is a game I'm definitely going to go back to one day. It's one of my favorite games of the year. So, you know, it is my favorite game of the year at this moment. And I don't know, maybe like we'll see by the end of the 2020s. Could be one of my favorite games of the decade, Chad. But yeah, absolutely love it. Highly recommended. But what about you guys? What are some of your favorite games of 2022? Obviously, I've not played as nearly as many new games as other people have. I only have 4 up here, chat, but I want to hear your recommendations. What should I be playing? You know, what should I be playing in the near future? Let me know.